Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another Battle to the Death for you. Today we have one that you guys have all been asking for, and I've been wanting to do for a long time. We have the Spyderco Shaman versus the Cold Steel AD-10. I hadn't done it because I didn't have a Shaman. I sold mine, and then I wound up reacquiring one in a trade. I'm very, very happy to have one back in the collection. And the reason why I have this Cold Steel AD-10 brings us to our sponsor. Yes, the Battle to the Death from here in the foreseeable future will be sponsored by Southern Edge Knife Works. You see their sticker up here, or SEKW as they are known more colloquially, if that's a word. Very, very cool site. Pretty new company, less than 2 years old, but they have a lot of really great stuff in stock. I'm working with Chad, the manager down there, and we started talking about some stuff, and actually my one of my trade things, he made a cool offer, and then we started talking more, and it just made sense to partner up with them because they have a really good stock of a lot of stuff that you guys asked for me to do in Battles to the Death, but I don't have them. For example, I really want to do this. I didn't have an AD-10. I did really want an AD-10 back, and this is mine now, but I'm able to get stuff from them to use. If you guys say I want knife A versus knife B, and I don't have knife B, now I can call them and ask if I can borrow one or buy one really cheap or something like that, and get it in to use for a Battle to the Death. So there will be more Battles to the Death thanks to them. And not only that, not only am I able to facilitate more content for you guys, there's a discount code. If you go to southernedgeknifeworks.com and use the code SDSEK at checkout, it's SDSEK at checkout, you get 15% off and free shipping. Not bad at all. I do have to say, that's pretty good. And go check them out. They have a whole lot of really cool stock. They sell almost everything. You got your Benchmade, Spyderco, Cold Steel, Civivis, all kinds of stuff. I'm not even going to bother to try and list all the brands they have. It's a lot. Go check them out at southernedgeknifeworks.com. Thank you very much to them, and look forward to seeing more content because of them in the future. So thanks a lot to Chad and the guys down there. All right, let's get going. So these are two big, beefy bruiser EDC knives, kind of on the upper edge of what you'd actually want to carry every day. Meant to be pretty hard use knives, and I like them both. This was a pretty hard Battle to the Death to do, honestly. They are both knives that I've let go and then got back again because I really wanted another one. So you can tell I like them both a lot. We're going to talk about each knife individually and do some specs and all that stuff. And then we will move on. But first of all, let's explain how all this works. We have our usual 7 categories: design and aesthetics, quality, blade, ergonomics, carry, deployment, and value. Everybody gets a point for each category they win. And at the end, we add them all up. That's my new finger symbol for add them all up. And we'll pick a winner. So let's go. We'll start out with the Shaman. The Shaman, it's based, they call it part of the Native family, like the Native 5, the Native Chief, all that kind of stuff. It is shaped exactly like that, but it's a much larger knife than anything else in the Native family. The Native Chief is longer, but it's much more slender. This is definitely the beefiest knife in that family. You got S30V steel, nicely contoured G10 scales. You have a compression lock. Really nice knife. The downside to the Shaman and why it's gotten a lot of grief lately is the price has crept way up. When I first initially reviewed this, it was $150. Now it is $202. So it has been the primary victim of the yearly Spyderco price increases. It's gone up quite a bit. So $202, not an inexpensive knife for S30V and G10. But we'll get into that as we go on. Don't worry about it. Let's do some specs before we get too much farther. These are all 1-inch squares. You have an overall length of 8 inches, a blade length of 3.6 inches. You have a blade thickness of just a hair under 0.15 inches, handle thickness of 0.53 inches, and a weight of 5.2 ounces according to my scales. I will say off the bat too, when we get farther in, this one does have an aftermarket edge on it. When I go to talk about the blade and stuff, I'm referring to my notes to the original. This came from my buddy Mike, and he put one of his outstanding edges on it. We're not comparing this with an aftermarket edge to the stock AD-10. We're going off my notes from the original. All right, next up, we have the AD-10. This is basically a production version of the custom Andrew Demko design. Very, very faithful to the original. Again, nice contour G10 S35 VN steel on this one. Your typical, what you'd expect, triad lock. Very, very beefy, overbuilt knife. I really, really like it a lot. Obviously, I went to go get one back. This is the newer version with the flat grind. They used to be hollow ground. They don't do that anymore. I wish they did. But this has the full flat grind that you would find if you went to go out and buy one right now. This also had a little bit of a price creep, I will say. When I initially reviewed this, it was 170 something. I want to say like 172 or 179. I can't really exactly remember. They've crept up to 192. So they've also crept up a little bit. Not as much as the Shaman, but they've still crept up a little bit in price. So keep that in mind. You may still find them at the old price if you go shop around enough, but most places have them at 192 right now. You have, as far as specs go, a little bit larger knife. You have an overall length of 8.5 inches, blade length of just a hair over 3.6 inches, blade thickness of just the tiniest bit over 0.15 inches. You have a handle thickness of 0.6 inches and a weight, according to my scales, of 6.84 ounces. So a little bigger, a little heavier. Now let's bring them out, start doing your regularly scheduled comparisons categories. So design and aesthetics. This one is pretty hard. They're both all right looking. I really wouldn't put either of them in the Louvre, but they're both all right looking. I have to give just slightest edge to the Shaman though. I don't know. I just like there's fewer screws visible. There's still a lot of screws visible, but there's fewer screws visible. I just like the look of this Contour G10 a little bit better than what it is on the AD-10. You don't see the liners exposed, that kind of stuff. I like the Spyderco aesthetic with the Spidey hole. Some people really hate that. So this is the most subjective category. I always say that. So if you want to discard one of them, this is the one to discard. But I have to give a slight edge to design and aesthetic, to the Shaman. I think it's just a slightly better looking knife. Not dramatically so, just a little bit. Quality. This was also close. I've had two Shamans and two AD-10s now, and both of them I've had zero problems with. They've both been great. They've both been really well put together. Don't really have an issue there. I'm going to give the edge, though, to the AD-10. And why? Because these are hard-use knives, and this just feels more like a hard-use knife. If that's what you're getting one of these for, the AD-10 just feels like more of a bruiser. It just feels a bit more solid. This doesn't feel not solid, whatever. This still feels pretty sturdy, but this just feels that little bit more solid. And the factory edges is the thing that finally pushes it over really for me, is that Cold Steel's factory edges are just great. They always come so razor smoking sharp out of the box. This was no exception. Spyderco edges are fine, but not quite up to the standard that the Cold Steels are. They always just come so well done. They do a great job on their heat treats on every steel that they use. I got to give the edge and quality to the Cold Steel. Blade. I was fully prepared. Here's what I thought I was going to think. I already had it in my head before I even got this thing out of the box. I was going to say it's a tie. It would have been a win for the AD-10 if it still had the hollow grind, but it doesn't anymore because it did make it a bit of a better slicer. But I'm going to call it a tie because this has better steel. But no, I'm not. I'm still going to give it to the AD-10. Even with the flat ground, it is thicker behind the edge. You look at 25 thousandths versus like 30, 31. This is so infinitesimally smaller, thicker steel. That doesn't really matter that much. Both pretty high flat grinds. But I think it's, again, just that edge out of the box on the AD-10 is so good. And it's S35VN. Not just S35VN. It's very well done S35VN. This is S30V. Spyderco does fine with S30V. But at the end of the day, it's S30V. This is S35VN. Is the Shaman a tiny bit of a better slicer? Yeah, a little bit. Just a little bit. But a very small bit. Not enough to make up for the fact that you're looking at S30V versus S35VN. I mean, both are knives. You're not going to worry about snapping the tip off or anything. They're both pretty equal as far as that goes. So, yeah. Got to go AD-10. So, AD-10 gets the win in the blade category, which I was not expecting. I really thought that was going to be a tie. Ergonomics. I preface this by saying both of these are excellent. Both of these ergonomically are two of my favorite knives that I own, or that I have owned. They are both outstanding. But I have to give a very slight edge to the AD-10, and I'll preface this by saying probably a lot of that has to do with my hands because I have really long fingers. It's probably the same reason why I prefer a Spyderco Manix 2 to a Spyderco PM2. This just fills my hand better. The Shaman definitely completely fills my hand. I don't really have any complaints. I mean, look, it's not like I'm wrapping my fingers halfway around there or anything. It definitely fills my hand extremely well. But the AD-10 fills it just that bit better. And I get a little bit less of a hot spot from the pocket clip, even though this pocket clip is big and kind of hideous. I don't feel it a bit. I do feel the pocket clip on the Shaman, just a tiny bit. Both have pretty good forward finger choils. It's more generous on the Shaman for sure, but my fingers, I can use both of them. And I don't know, it's just that tiny margin better. A lot of these categories between these two are margins of very little. But yeah, I feel more comfortable in more positions. I feel comfortable using this choked back. We're on the Shaman. I still feel comfortable using it choked back, but then you've got a lot of distance before blade starts. You have a little bit less on the AD-10. Yeah, got to go Ergonomics AD-10. Again, not by much. Carry, this one was not close. Shaman, all day long. I mean, it's, look at it, when you close them, it's an infinitely smaller footprint. This is like, what, well over an ounce heavier. Yeah, you can see. Ugly pocket clip. Okay looking pocket clip. Bring out EO Wranglers Mark II. We'll just put them in one at a time. Almost said side by side. I don't think they would fit. You can see you got a whole lot of knife sticking out of there. You can get your hand by it, but it ain't easy. I mean, I have a 4MAX and the 4MAX Scout, and I don't think it's dramatically harder to get my hand past the 4MAX Scout than it is the AD-10. It's a lot of knife in your pocket, for absolutely sure. If I can get it out now. And the aforementioned, as always, very tight cold steel pocket clip. They break in pretty quick, though. Now, on the Shaman, still definitely going to have a lot of knife sticking out of there, but it isn't as egregious. And again, much smaller footprint, much easier to get your hand past. The Shaman carries smaller than it is. It feels even smaller than it is in your pocket. I mean, it feels smaller than a PM2 in your pocket. It's amazing what they've done with it. It's really great to carry. 4-position pocket clip, lighter. You know, what else are you asking for, right? It's absolutely definitely the winner in the carry category. Line my thing back up there. All right, now deployment. After I deployed them I should have waited a second. Again, it's got to be a Shaman. I mean, it's got a compression lock. Compression locks are fun. You can do this kind of stuff with them. You know, the compression lock on the Shaman is not perfect. A lot of people talk about that. You have to be careful not to hit that the little tang that comes down so that you can actually get it closed all the way. You can see the tang will enter, that little blade tang thing will enter the path of the lock. You don't want that, but you can do all kinds of Spyderco flippy things with it. It's a lot of fun. It's just so much more fun. The AD-10 has the triad lock, toughest lock in the business for absolutely sure. And if you're really worried about your lock failing, you won't care. It still is fairly drop shutty, but make sure you have your finger way up here so that it lands there on that finger choil, and you don't, because if you have your finger down here, you're going to guillotine yourself, and it ain't fun. Don't do that. It does still flick out all right, you know, and it makes that very satisfying thwacking sound, I will say. I have no problems with the deployment for what this is. It's perfectly fine. And it does have that really strong triad lock, but compression lock's just so much more fun to have around. You know, you gotta give it to the Shaman. Even if you are some kind of compression lock hater, you gotta admit they're more fun than a triad lock back lock. Value. Okay, both of these have crept up in price. As I said, I actually would call the Shamans not a creep. That was probably a rocket ship in price. It's got to be a win for the cold steel. It didn't go up as much. You're getting better materials as far as the blade goes. As I said, I think you're getting a little better quality, especially for what they're meant for. Value, I got to give it to the AD-10, even at $192. And like I said, if you shop around, you can probably find them a little cheaper, but you're probably not going to find a Shaman cheaper than 202. That's just what everybody's charging for them now, and that's a shame. When this knife was, if these both were $192, I'd have to think for a minute, but at $192 and 202, I got to say AD-10. Much better value. Neither of them come with spectacularly awesome boxes or anything like that. But AD-10 for value. So where does that leave us? A 4-3 win for the Cold Steel. And I would say, sometimes at the end of these, I say, well, that's what the paper says, but I would probably choose the other one. No, not this one. I think gun to my head, I mean, I love both of these. I have no plans on getting rid of either of them, but gun to my head, had to get rid of one. It would be the Shaman. So I think that's a pretty accurate description of how I feel about them. I really like them both, but like the AD-10 just that little bit better. If I want a big bruiser, Cold Steel knows big bruisers. Nobody does it better than Cold Steel. Not a big shocker there. And Andrew Demko, amazing designer. Hope you guys have enjoyed this, and thank you again to SouthernEdgeKnifeWorks.com. Again, use that code SDSEK at checkout, 15% off and free shipping. So check them out. I've been Brian. Have a good one.